children are especially vulnerable. When a young brain is still developing, being told that unseen forces are watching, judging, and punishing their thoughts can lead to lifelong anxiety. Many adults who grew up religious report chronic guilt, fear of abandonment, and obsessive thoughts, even after leaving the faith. These aren't just philosophical scars. These are psychological injuries. In fact, there's a growing field of study called religious trauma syndrome. It shares characteristics with PTSD. People suffer from nightmares, panic attacks, and emotional numbness because of what they were taught to believe. These effects don't come from just bad experiences with individuals. They come from internalizing an entire system of thought that suppresses doubt, demands obedience, and punishes critical thinking. If a person was isolated, told their thoughts are sinful, told the world is corrupt, and that they need to conform to avoid punishment, we would see that as emotional abuse. But when it's called salvation, it becomes untouchable. That's the hidden danger. Religion wraps harmful ideas in comforting language: love, peace, hope. But beneath that surface is often a rigid set of beliefs that distort how people see themselves, others, and reality itself. One study from the Journal of Religion and Health found that individuals who score high in religious fundamentalism often have lower levels of analytical thinking. That doesn't mean religious people are unintelligent. But it does suggest that when people are trained to rely on faith over logic, their ability to question and analyze weakens over time. That kind of mental conditioning mirrors what happens in cults and closed systems, where doubt is discouraged and conformity is rewarded. Even the structure of many religions mirrors obsessive-compulsive behavior. Repeating prayers a set number of times, avoiding certain foods, feeling unclean unless specific rituals are performed. There's an excessive focus on purity, control, and guilt. These patterns can overlap with symptoms seen in OCD, where repetitive thoughts and rituals are used to reduce anxiety. But instead of being treated, they're institutionalized. The concept of sin itself is psychological warfare. It creates the idea that you're inherently broken and need to constantly seek forgiveness, that you are watched, judged, and can never be fully good on your own. That kind of thinking doesn't inspire growth. It breeds helplessness. It traps people in cycles of shame and dependence. And it doesn't end in the mind. It shows up in behavior. People start avoiding certain friendships, denying themselves harmless pleasures, and policing their thoughts. All because they believe their desires are evil. That kind of suppression often leads to emotional breakdowns or explosive behavior later. Human nature doesn't disappear just because you label it sinful. In some extreme cases, people have been known to mutilate themselves, starve themselves, or live in isolation to purify their souls. That's not spiritual strength. That's self-harm justified by belief. And yet, throughout history, these actions were praised as holy. Saints who bled for faith. Martyrs who gave up everything. But if someone today said they wanted to suffer to please an invisible force, most psychologists would call that delusional. It's also worth noting how religion often discourages seeking help outside the belief system. People are told to pray instead of seeing a therapist, to read scripture instead of taking medication, to trust a spiritual leader instead of a doctor. That isolation from real solutions is dangerous. Mental illness thrives in silence. And religion, at its worst, creates exactly that environment, where speaking up is seen as weakness and questioning is seen as rebellion. Even community support can become a trap. The love and acceptance people feel in religious groups often come with a condition: you must believe. If you stop believing, that same community can turn cold. People lose friends, family, even their identities. This isn't just disagreement. It's emotional blackmail. That kind of pressure causes deep mental stress. It keeps people trapped, not by chains, but by the fear of rejection.